Hi guys, welcome to Lesson 2 of Linux Terminal 101. In this video series, my goal is to help provide a solid foundation when you're working within the Linux terminal. We'll be going over different commands, different utilities, and the terminology associated with each. Each video will follow a general outline of discussion followed by example. Today we'll be going over 3 commands. The very first command is the touch command. This is used to create and modify files. The next is mkdir, or make directory, used, as the name says, to create directories. Easy enough. The last will be rm, used to remove file system objects. Alright, so more on the touch command. Like I said, this is used to create files, but specifically empty files. It can also be used to modify the timestamps of existing files. Now, keep in mind when you're doing this, when you're modifying the timestamps, you don't have to worry about touch overwriting the file. It won't take out the content, but you can update the timestamps, and we'll look at that a little bit more when we get to the terminal, into the examples. You can also use touch, it's pretty versatile, to check and see if a file exists or not. If the file does not exist, though, that it's checking for, just note that it's not going to create that file. My last point on this is you can also use it to create or modify multiple files at one time. The next command we'll be discussing is the mkdir, or make directory command. As this command sounds, it's used to create directories. You can also do something a little bit special. During creation, you can specify the permissions to be assigned, which kind of makes things a little shorter as you're creating it. Let's say you know who you want it to be for, or maybe you even have this in a script. Makes things very handy. Takes a step out. Now, you don't just have to create directories within the directory you're working in, though. If you wanted to create a directory that's a couple directories deep in your tree, like a directory within another directory, you'd have to specify the path. And you'd also have to use an option, the -p. Now, one thing cool about using the P option is if there is any directories that are missing along the path you specified, it'll automatically create them for you. So in our example above, if let's say the math directory didn't exist within the class directory, then using the option P would create that directory in addition to the algebra one, which was the original goal. Next is the rm command, and this one, very similar to the name. This command is used to remove objects such as files, directories, symbolic links, and so on. Basically, general file system objects. Now, if you want to remove a directory, there's actually a particular option you have to use. It doesn't have to actually be a capital R. I've seen it used both ways, lowercase and uppercase, and we're going to test that here when we get to the terminal. But if you use the R option, you can remove directories. If you don't use that, by default, rm is not going to remove the directories. Alright, without further ado, let's move over to the terminal. And get up there. Alright, first, like I said, let's work with the touch command. Now, touch by itself won't do anything. You have to specify a name. You don't technically have to give something a file extension, though I typically do. I think it's good practice. But you don't have to. So, by doing that, if we take a look here, you can see we have test.text. I guess it would have been nice to see that wasn't there before. But we're going to quickly use one of our other commands here and cheat a little bit. I wanted to wait to use this, but that's okay. Bam, and take a look again, it's gone. So let's clear all this out. You now know it's not there. And we use touch.test or touch space text.txt, and we get exactly that. Now note the file is empty. Yeah, we'll use less. It's just a quick command to show you basically what's in it, which is nothing. And then Q to escape. There's a bunch of things you could have used to check that out. Anyway, so let's look at the details of this newly found file that we just created called test. Now, the permissions that I was discussing before are the access, the modify, and the change. They're not permissions, but timestamps, excuse me. The first two we can modify. The last one we can't edit. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So if we were to use touch dash, and let's change the access time and say it was last accessed, I don't know, in maybe 1999 or something. So we specify dates equals 1999. Maybe we'll do it sometime, I don't know, August, I guess, or rather that'd be April 8th. Excuse me on that, and we'll do it at 4 o'clock. And test.text. So here we have touch. We're specifying here that we want to modify the access time. And here we're saying we want to specify the date ourselves. Don't use the current date, use this date instead. And this is the file name to apply it to. So let's hit enter and check the stat of test again. And you'll see the access date was 2020. It's now 1999. Let's clean up our screen here and bring up stat again. And the command is actually the exact same if we wanted to modify or change the modify time or timestamp. Notice above it's 2020, and in this command that we're about to hit the enter key on, it's going to change it to what's right above it, to 1999 April 08. Hit the enter key and run stat again. You can see they're both the same. That's probably the most useful portions of touch. Now moving on to make directory. mkdir. Well, let's start off by making a directory called temp. And again, and where's temp? Temp's here. Now let's use a command called tree. Hopefully tree's installed. Of temp. Tree not found. Alright, let's just quickly sorry guys. It's not really that we're talking about tree as much, because if we were, I would go into how to install and everything like that, but just to use it for testing, go back and tree. The way this command works, you can get the tree of temp. 0 directories, 0 files. So let's go back. Now let's use our mkdir with our option P like we discussed. And let's specify something. Temp. This dir is new. So we should be creating a directory inside temp called this, a directory inside this, dir is, and new. So we'll take a look at it right after we do this and use tree again. Beautiful. Now, easy enough. Let's just do something real quick. All right, so I just threw a file called test.txt into the top level we just looked at. So inside temp, tree temp, you'll be able to see it here. Temp, test. What I wanted to show you is using the rm command. Like we discussed, if you wouldn't have the -r or -R, you're not going to be able to delete the directories. So I want to give you an example of that. So let's start off by using that. rm, we'll say in this current directory inside temp, delete everything. Whoop, cannot remove this, is a directory. Alright, let's look at our tree now. But it did remove our test file that was inside temp. That's why I threw it in there real quick for us. Just so we can see it, it does remove all the files that would be at that first level, but it's not going to go any deeper. But if we would instead, let's throw a -r here. And then use our tree. Nothing. So, two things to keep in mind. If you're going to create recursive directories, you're using the -p and the mkdir. That's mkdir -p, and then path you pick, or whatever. And if you want to remove that same tree, really it's just right there, your rm-r. And remember, it can be capital R also. Couple other things that we will just let's do this real quick. Touch test 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so we have 5 files actually, beginning with test. So let's use an option for RM. This option is -I, interactive. It'll ask you on each file. I'm not going to go through each option on RM. They're pretty self-explanatory, but this one's pretty cool. And if you're using wildcards to clean up maybe temp files that a script generated, in testing, something of that nature, it's fantastic. Because I've actually wiped out an entire directory before, right before something was due. A little late at night, and a wildcard that was a little broad. But anyway, this should ask me on each file it locates that fits this description, so it would be these 5. Do I want to delete it? And let's run it. Oh, yes. Yes. Let's say no on number 3. Let's say we really wanted 3. But we want to get rid of 4 and that one. We do our ls, we only have 3. And we're all cleaned up. Alright, nothing else I really wanted to cover. I guess I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you for watching.